And have you ever met Donald Trump?
No,
You've not? Wow, that's something else.
cheaters don't like getting caught. And
Yeah.
and being held accountable.
As the saying goes, cheaters never prosper, but it seems Donald Trump begs to differ. However, Kamala Harris isn't one to let it slide. On Kimmel's show, she boldly asserted that cheaters despise being caught and held accountable. With Trump's recent guilty verdict on 34 felony counts, it seems he's finally facing the music. The jury, after 6 weeks of deliberation, didn't hold back. When Harris guested on Jimmy Kimmel, her zingers flew faster than Trump's Twitter fingers. Harris wasn't shy about her barrage of one-liners, leaving Kimmel and the audience in stitches. One of her notable jabs was about the irony of her and Trump's political prominence, despite never having met. Kimmel emphasized the absurdity of it all, but Harris was just warming up. She targeted the guilty verdict against Trump, stating that cheaters don't like getting caught and being held accountable. With her sharp wit, Harris left a mark on Trump that might need some aloe vera for the burn. She pointed out Trump's fondness for tyrants and his intention to weaponize the Department of Justice against his adversaries. Throughout the discussion, Harris and Kimmel had a field day with Trump's habit of accusing people of the very things he's guilty of and his hypocrisy. It was like watching a comedic roast, but with more political insight. Harris's wit was on full display, and Kimmel was the perfect sidekick, setting her up for punchlines while adding his own comedic touch.
The greatest jobs president that God ever created. Free trade can be wonderful if you have smart people.
Well, I could go anywhere from saying farmers markets.
They don't have farmers markets in D.C.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
As the program came to a close, it became quite evident that Harris and Kimmel had reached their peak performance. They were like a well-oiled machine, effortlessly producing jokes at Trump's cost. This goes to show that sometimes the most effective approach to knock down a bully is with a few zingers delivered at the right moment in a direct and forthright manner. The vice president criticized President Trump for his part in influencing the Supreme Court to reverse Roe v. Wade. Her criticism was directed at the former president for his practice of hand-selecting justices with the intention of removing protections for reproductive rights. Indeed, they did a fantastic job of delivering on Trump's warped vision. Harris also focused on the consequences that the court's ruling would have in the real world. She painted a gloomy picture of medical professionals, such as doctors and nurses, being subject to criminal charges, as well as the absence of exclusions for rape or incest in certain jurisdictions. People, you are walking in a moral and ethical minefield right now. However, the roasting process did not end there. Harris criticized Trump for his legal problems, notably the staggering number of 34 felony counts that have been brought against him. Kimmel joined in on the fun, making a joke about the repercussions that could result from a possible re-election of Trump. In a lighthearted manner, he expressed concern about the potential consequences that a vengeful Trump could have for a talk show host who had been brutally insulting him.
Thinking about that, about the fact that they very well might not be able to get birth control in the states they live in.
He was case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population. That's where the US is really bad.
Well, telling them what to do with their own body. And remember, when Donald Trump was president, he supported a national ban and said he would sign it.
At the same time as Harris acknowledged Trump's well-documented affinity for tyrants and his threats to weaponize the legal system against his adversaries, she played along with that admiration. Moreover, the two individuals discussed the obvious hypocrisy of Trump. Harris drew attention to the fact that he has a tendency of taking responsibility for the same wrongdoings that he has committed himself when it comes to deflecting, denying, and pointing the finger elsewhere. This is a classic champion technique. Harris and Kimmel consistently delivered a 1-2 punch of humor and realities that hit close to home for the entirety of the episode. The conversation was infused with a healthy amount of fun, despite the fact that they did not shy away from the important topics that were at stake. When it came to political satire, it was a class in itself. Jimmy Kimmel, known for his impeccable timing in comedy, was not going to let Kamala Harris have all the fun while she was roasting Donald Trump. Oh no, he brought his A-game to the interview, peppering it with his own zinger after zinger during the course of the conversation. The comedian Jimmy Kimmel made a sarcastic reference to Harris when he introduced her by saying that she was the third most powerful American in the world after Joe Biden and Taylor Swift. When you place Harris in the same category as T. Swift, come on.
Is this something you ever imagined would happen in your lifetime?
You couldn't find it. There's nobody like that. The look, the brain, the whole thing. We had a great relationship.
Look, I think we both agree people shouldn't have to go to jail for smoking weed.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
It was the ideal combination of Kimmel's typical wit and the severity of however, the true turning point was when Kimmel made a speculative statement regarding the possibility that Republicans might be regretting their position on health care. Kimmel managed to keep the audience laughing throughout the entire interview in order to move into a break. He asked Harris a question that appeared to be completely random. It wasn't all jokes and barbs all the time. There were some weighty subjects that Kimmel and Harris discussed, such as the legal challenges that Trump is facing and the ridiculousness of making marijuana use a criminal offense edition. Let us not overlook the fact that Kimmel brought up the cannabis strain known as Kamala Kush. The response that Harris gave was priceless, and it breathed a sense of levity and playfulness into a conversation that was otherwise very serious. Kimmel was able to sneak in one more zinger regarding the impact that Trump has on the Republicans as the interview was coming to a close. Rather than focusing on finding a solution to a problem, he would rather run on it, Kimmel stated with a knowing smirk on his face, following a part that was full of humor and cutting comments. This was the ideal way to bring the program to a close as a real master of the creative balance. Kamala Harris was able to deftly combine serious political commentary with a splash of sarcastic spice, which resulted in the audience being completely captivated. On the other hand, she did not run away from the weighty problems, and she confronted the Roe v. Wade bombshell that was handed down by the Supreme Court.
Are you aware that there is a strain of cannabis named after you, Kamala Kush?
As you know, I've come here from New York, where I'm being forced to endure a Biden show trial, all done by Biden.
You seem to side with our former president, sided with Russia over his own intelligence people. So why do you think that is?
She criticized Trump for his court-packing scheme, highlighting how he deliberately chose 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the goal of overturning the protections of Roe v. Wade. She delivered this message with a mix of humor and seriousness. On the other hand, Harris didn't just stick to the facts, she added a touch of biting sarcasm. When discussing the harsh laws passed post-Roe v. Wade, she joked about states threatening life imprisonment for doctors providing care. This theory, presented humorously, underscored the absurdity of the situation. Moreover, Harris added a personal touch, using her experience as a prosecutor to emphasize the lack of exceptions for rape and incest survivors in the law. She highlighted the immorality of rejecting such exceptions, drawing attention to sexual assaults by close relations, which resonated deeply with the audience. Harris's concerns extended beyond the legalization of abortion. She also criticized Trump's repeated attempts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, pointing out his 60 efforts to undo it. This created a seamless transition between seemingly unrelated topics, showcasing Trump's broader impact on healthcare. Even when asked if she had met Trump, Harris couldn't resist a satirical jab. Her response, "No, you haven't," started as a humorous moment, but soon turned into a serious commentary on Trump's behavior and its consequences.
The most stylish president and first lady in our lifetimes are Donald Trump and Melania Trump.
Have you ever been bitten by the president's dog?
No.
No.
I know a lot about wind. Yeah, I know windmills very much. I've studied it better than anybody. I understand the power of Facebook, maybe better than almost anybody.
Not to mention the zinger regarding Trump's legal issues, which we must not overlook, with the remark that cheaters don't like getting caught and being held accountable. Harris was able to make a pointed reference to the 34 counts of felony that he has committed while still maintaining a pleasant atmosphere. Despite everything that was going on, Harris never lost sight of the bigger vision. She underscored the importance of democracy and voting, reminding the audience that we still have an intact democracy with 3 co-equal branches of government. While the discussion was wrapped in humor, it was also a call to action. Harris didn't miss a beat as the conversation turned to speculate about the possibility of Trump's return to power. She specifically mentioned his authoritarian tendencies, stating that he admires dictators and says he'll be a dictator on day one. However, she balanced this unsettling thought by highlighting her administration's efforts to maintain democratic norms. The conversation between Jimmy Kimmel and Kamala Harris was a superb blend of humor and serious political criticism. The tone of the talk was carefully tuned to appeal to the target audience, which consisted of politically committed liberals. It was like watching a delectable political cocktail being prepared right in front of your eyes, with the perfect combination of snark, wit, and substance to keep fans attached to the show. Kimmel's humorous interjections were the ideal garnish, adding a dash of lightheartedness to the serious themes being discussed.
He has made it pretty plain that he's planning to go after his enemies, or whatever you want to call them, should he be reelected.
I know more about renewables than any human being on Earth. Nobody knows more about polls than me. I know more about courts than any human being on Earth. I understand healthcare now, especially, very well.
Say a talk show host that has been making fun of him for like, what can he actually do to, like, for example, me?
However, ladies and gentlemen, let's face it, this was not just a lighthearted comedic performance. The senator did not hold back when it came to pointing out Trump's wrongdoings and the real-world ramifications of his actions. She delivered some truth bombs that packed a powerful punch, such as condemning Trump's affinity for dictators and his intention to weaponize the Department of Justice. Even if you were laughing at Kimmel's little jokes, it was a moment that made you sit up and pay attention. The beauty of this conversation is that it never felt like a dry political lecture. This is the brilliance of the discourse, as Harris and Kimmel had such natural chemistry that it felt like listening in on a conversation between two intelligent and humorous friends. They seamlessly wove together personal experiences and political insights, creating a tapestry of entertainment and knowledge tailored to their audience's preferences. There were undoubtedly many enjoyable moments along the way, such as when Kimmel joked about the guilty judgment for Trump and Harris's security clearance. However, there is no denying that this was not merely a comedy lacking in substance. Each joke carried a profound message about the current state of our democracy and the importance of holding politicians accountable for their actions. Throughout the interview, Kamala Harris highlighted the oddities of Donald Trump's actions and rhetoric, combining humor and serious criticism. Her sharp jabs at the former president's legal woes and divisive tactics served as a reminder of the power of satire in political conversation. By utilizing comedy as a means of engagement, Harris conveyed significant ideas concerning healthcare, women's rights, and the rule of law in a manner that resonated with the audience. Kimmel's humorous remarks added an additional element of levity to the discourse, establishing a dynamic that kept viewers entertained while providing important insights. As the episode came to a close, it became abundantly clear that comedy can be a powerful weapon in the political arena, capable of disarming opponents and highlighting the absurdities of their beliefs. The conversation between Harris and Kimmel revealed that sometimes the most effective way to convey a serious message is to make people laugh.